He collapsed after his wife divorced him to marry his boss. His maid dialed a random number, and this happened. But what he did days later shocked her. Imagine a successful man, Mark, who thinks he has the perfect life. A loving wife, a powerful job, a beautiful home. Then, in one afternoon, it all burns down. His wife serves him divorce papers, not just to leave him, but to marry his own boss. As if that wasn't enough, she tells him he's fired. The shock, the betrayal, it was too much. Mark collapsed right there on his apartment floor. His maid, finding him, panicked. She didn't know who to call. Grabbing his phone, she frantically dialed the last random number she saw in his call log. That one call would change everything. But the real story is what Mark did days later. A move that no one, especially not his maid, ever saw coming. Our story begins right at that devastating moment. The silence in the downtown high-rise apartment was deafening. Mark Harrison stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, but he wasn't looking at the sprawling city lights. He was staring at the single sheet of paper in his hand. The words irreconcilable differences blurred through his sudden, hot tears. Sarah, his wife of 15 years, zipped up a designer suitcase on their bed. She wasn't crying. Her efficiency was the cruelest part. "You've already signed?" he asked, his voice hollow. "My lawyer handled it. The assets are simple. I get the condo, the lake house, and my personal investment accounts. You get, well, you get your severance," she said, clipping on a diamond earring. Mark spun around. "Severance? What are you talking about, Sarah?" She finally looked at him, her eyes as cold and hard as the glass windows. "Frank is promoting me. We can't have you in the same department. It's a conflict of interest." The pieces clicked into place, forming a horrifying picture. Frank, his boss. "You're leaving me for Frank Thompson?" Sarah picked up her suitcase. "Frank values me, Mark. He gives me what I'm worth. The papers are all there. My lawyer will be in touch about the rest. Goodbye." The door clicked shut. The paper fluttered from Mark's numb fingers. He felt a terrifying, sharp pain radiate from his chest, climbing up his neck. His legs buckled. Maria let herself in with her key, calling out, "Mr. Harrison? I'm here for the Tuesday cleaning." She pushed her card into the foyer and immediately sensed something was wrong. The apartment was too still. The silence felt heavy, broken only by the hum of the high-end refrigerator. "Sir?" she called again, walking past the kitchen island into the grand living room. Then she saw him. "Dios mío. Mr. Harrison!" Maria screamed, dropping her cleaning supplies. Mark was sprawled on the expensive rug, frighteningly still, his face a pale, waxy gray. The divorce papers were scattered near his outstretched hand. She rushed over, shaking his shoulder. "Mark, wake up! Wake up!" He didn't respond. His breathing was frighteningly shallow. Panic seized her. "Call 911. "Yes, of course. But who else? His wife?" She had just seen Mrs. Harrison leave with a suitcase, her face like stone. She probably wouldn't even answer. His boss? No. Maria had overheard the last part of the argument through the door. Grabbing Mark's unlocked phone from the coffee table, her trembling fingers fumbled. She didn't know his emergency contacts. In her panic, her thumb hit the recent call log. The very last number, dialed just an hour ago, wasn't a saved name, just a string of digits she didn't recognize. With no other thought, fueled by pure fear, she pressed call. It rang once, twice. A man's voice answered, rough and unfamiliar. "Harrison, did you reconsider the offer?" Maria burst into tears. "Please, help me." He collapsed. "I don't know who you are, but please, he's not breathing right. I'm calling 911 now, but I don't know what to do." There was a sharp, stunned silence on the other end of the line. "What? Collapse?" The man's rough voice snapped with sudden, sharp authority. "Did you call 911? Where are you?" Yes, I am calling them now." Maria sobbed, balancing Mark's phone on her shoulder while fumbling for her own. She quickly dialed 911 on her device, her voice cracking as she gave the dispatcher the high-rise address. "I don't know who you are," she cried into Mark's phone. He's cold. "I'm on my way," the man said. "Do what the paramedics say. Don't leave him." The line clicked dead. The next few minutes were a terrifying blur. Maria barely had time to process the mystery call before the elevator doors opened and paramedics rushed in. They were professional, fast, and pushed Maria gently aside. "Sir, can you hear me?" Unresponsive. "He's in V-fib," one of them shouted, tearing open Mark's expensive shirt. "I need paddles." Charging. The horrific sound of the defibrillator filled the room, followed by the acrid smell of ozone. Mark's body jerked violently on the rug. Maria squeezed her eyes shut, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. She watched, helpless, as they stabilized him enough for transport, strapping him onto a gurney. As they rushed him out, one of the paramedics paused. "Are you family?" "No," Maria whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm just the maid." Maria stood trembling in the middle of the living room. The paramedics discarded medical wrappers, a stark reminder of the chaos. The front door was still ajar. She heard the ding of the private elevator, and she froze, her heart pounding. A man stepped out. He wasn't in an expensive suit like Mr. Harrison's usual colleagues. He was older, perhaps in his late 50s, with a weathered face and deep-set eyes. He wore rugged work boots, simple jeans, and a canvas jacket. He looked like he belonged on a construction site, not in a luxury penthouse. He spotted her, his gaze sharp and assessing. "You're the one who called me." Maria nodded, clutching her hands together. "Who are you?" They just took him to St. Jude's Hospital. I think it was his heart." The man's eyes swept the room, landing on the divorce papers by the window. He strode over and picked one up. His face darkened. "So that which finally did it," he muttered, his voice low and full of gravel. He crumpled the paper in his fist. He turned back to Maria, his expression intense. "Did he say anything before? About an offer? About a redwood project?" "No," Maria whispered, shaking her head. "He was just on the floor. I found him like that." The man nodded grimly, already heading back to the elevator. He pulled out an old smartphone. "St. Jude's. Got it. Thank you for making that call." He paused, one hand holding the metal door. "You did a good thing today, ma'am. You didn't just save his life. You saved his entire future." The doors slid shut, leaving Maria completely alone and more bewildered than ever. A few days later, Mark blinked at the pale green curtains of the hospital room. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the soundtrack to his new, broken life. He felt weak, hollowed out. A nurse had informed him he'd had a severe stress-induced heart attack. He was lucky. Lucky. He'd never felt less lucky in his life. The door creaked open, and Maria peeked in. "Mr. Harrison?" "Maria," he said, his voice raspy. "Come in." She entered timidly, holding a plastic container. I brought you some caldo de pollo. Chicken soup. My grandmother's recipe. I don't know if they let you have outside food, but..." Tears pricked at Mark's eyes. This woman, who he paid to clean his toilets, was the only person who had shown him an ounce of kindness. "Thank you, Maria. The doctors told me you saved my life. You made the call. I was so scared," she admitted, placing the container on the bedside table. I called the last number on your phone." As if summoned, the door opened again, and the same rugged man from the apartment walked in. He nodded at Maria. "Good. You're awake," he said to Mark. Mark stared, confused. "Elias? How did you know I was here?" "Your maid called me," Elias said, his voice direct. "Lucky she did. We need to talk, Mark. That snake Frank Thompson already tried to send his lawyers here. They tried to serve papers naming Sarah as your medical proxy. They want to control everything." Mark's heart monitor beeped faster. That monster." "Don't worry," Elias said, pulling a chair closer. "I handled it. I told them I was your partner." Maria gasped softly. "Partner? Business partner," Elias clarified, his eyes fixed on Mark. "I told them we had a binding contract. Which we will. That offer I made you, the one you ignored? It's your only move left. Sarah and Frank took your job, your house, and nearly your life. The question is, Mark, are you going to let them?" Mark stared at the older man, his hospital gown-clad shoulders slumping. "Elias, I don't understand. That call. I thought you were just another contractor." Elias leaned forward, his voice low and intense. "I'm Elias Thorne. I've been trying to get a meeting with you, just you, not Thompson, for 6 months. I'm an old-school builder. I buy forgotten land and build things that last. You," he said, jabbing a thick finger toward Mark, "are the best financial strategist in this city. You see value where no one else does. Frank Thompson just took credit for it. He, he fired me, Mark whispered, the humiliation washing over him again. He cut you loose because he's an idiot, Elias shot back. And Sarah, she just wants the penthouse. They think you're done. They think you're a broken man who just lost his health. They're wrong. Elias pulled a worn leather-bound tablet from his bag. This is the Redwood Project. Your original proposal. The one Frank laughed out of the boardroom. The sustainable community development. He called it your hippie fantasy. I call it genius. He turned the screen to Mark. I have the land. I have the investors. I needed the architect of the financial model. You, Frank and Sarah stole your past, Mark. They're trying to steal your present. But this is your future. 50-50 partners. We build it from the ground up, and we bury them. Maria stood frozen by the door, holding her breath. She wasn't just a maid. She was a witness. She watched the color slowly return to Mark's face, a pale flicker in his eyes turning into a low, burning ember. Mark looked from Elias's intense, waiting face to the tablet displaying the Redwood Project. It was his passion project, the one he'd poured his soul into, only to have Frank dismiss it as unprofitable. He then looked at Maria. She wasn't an executive or a strategist, but her eyes held a simple, powerful truth. She nodded once, a look of fierce encouragement. A slow, cold anger began to replace the crushing weight of despair. Sarah and Frank hadn't just broken his heart. They had tried to break his spirit. They had tossed him away like garbage. They thought he was finished. You're right, Mark said, his voice stronger now. He pushed himself up straighter against the hospital pillows. They're idiots. And they underestimated me. He met Elias's gaze. 50-50. I'm in. Get your lawyers. Get me whatever I need to sign. Elias broke into a rough grin. That's the man I've been looking for. My lawyer is already in the lobby, drawing up the preliminary partnership agreement. We have to move fast. Frank is trying to liquidate your joint accounts, claiming you're medically incapacitated. He's using Sarah to do it. Mark's jaw tightened. He turned to Maria. Maria? I don't know what happens to the condo. My accounts are probably frozen. I can't pay you. Maria stepped forward, her hands clasped. Mr. Harrison, you don't worry about me. You worry about getting strong. I will come to the hospital. I will bring you soup. You fight this. This is not right. A profound sense of gratitude filled him. Thank you, Maria. He looked back at Elias. Get my lawyer in here. And bring me a secure, private laptop. Not one from the hospital. The first thing we do is file an emergency injunction for fraud. For the next 3 days, the hospital room transformed. It was no longer a place of sickness, but a command center. Elias brought in a high-powered, encrypted laptop and a portable printer. A sharp-eyed woman named Ms. Alvarez, Elias's lawyer, became a permanent fixture, her briefcase clicking open and shut with a series of contracts and affidavits. Maria came every day as promised, intending to bring soup and quiet encouragement. Instead, she found herself making coffee for a legal team and quietly observing a side of Mark Harrison she never knew existed. He was no longer the broken man on the rug. Hooked up to and for, his voice was still raspy, but his mind was a steel trap. No, that indemnity clause is too weak, Mark snapped, reviewing a document. I want it ironclad. Elias, Frank's play will be to declare the Redwood financials speculative. I need you to get appraisals on the land parcels. Today, I want hard, tangible numbers. Already on it. Elias rumbled from his corner. Ms. Alvarez, Mark continued. The injunction needs to be specific. He's not just accessing joint accounts. He'll be leveraging my private portfolios. Here are the account numbers. And file a formal complaint with the Ethics Board against Frank Thompson for predatory professional conduct. Maria listened, her eyes wide. She watched him dictate complex financial strategies, anticipate his enemies' every move, and counter them with cold, calculated precision. This wasn't the kind Mr. Harrison who always complimented her cleaning. This was a general going to war. He was ruthless. He was brilliant. And she was absolutely stunned. Mark was finally being discharged. The monitors were gone, and he was sitting in a chair, dressed in a new set of clothes Elias had brought him. He looked thinner, but his eyes were clear and sharp. Elias was packing the last of the laptops into a briefcase. The injunction is solid, Elias said, snapping the case shut. Frank and Sarah are locked out of everything. They're screaming bloody murder. I'll go pull the car around. He clapped Mark on the shoulder and left. Maria had arrived a few minutes earlier, holding a small, worn handbag. Mr. Harrison, I just came to wish you well. I am so happy you are you. Mark smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. Maria, come here. He stood up, a little unsteadily, and walked over to her. I have something for you. Oh no, sir, you don't need to. He held up a hand, stopping her. You saved my life. That's a debt I can never repay, but I can try. He handed her a thick manila envelope. You told me once, while you were dusting, that your son was brilliant, but that you couldn't afford the tuition for the tech program he wanted. You said you dreamed of starting your own catering service. Maria looked at the envelope, confused. Ah, yes, but... Open it, Maria. Her hands trembled as she opened the clasp. Inside, she saw a cashier's check. The number of zeros on it made her vision swim. She gasped, a hand flying to her mouth as tears instantly filled her eyes. It was life-changing. It was more money than she had seen in her entire life. Mr. Harrison, I cannot take this, she whispered, trying to push it back. Yes, you can, Mark said gently but firmly. This isn't a bonus. This isn't a thank you. This is an investment. You invested in me with your quick thinking and your kindness. I'm investing in you. Go start your company. Send your son to college. This was what shocked her. Not the legal battles, not the ruthless phone calls. It was this profound, quiet act of unbelievable G. 6 months later, the sun was bright over a sprawling plot of land, the city skyline a distant silhouette. A large banner read, "The Redwood Project, Building the Future." Mark, looking healthy and relaxed in a polo shirt and jeans, stood on a small stage next to Elias. He was addressing a crowd of investors and local officials. This isn't just about sustainable homes, Mark was saying, his voice resonating with passion. It's about building a sustainable community. Just then, a pristine white catering truck pulled up, Maria's kitchen, painted beautifully on the side. Maria stepped out, wearing a crisp chef's coat, a look of confident professionalism on her face. Mark saw her, and his smile widened. He paused his speech, holding up a hand. Folks, my apologies. One of our most important partners just arrived. He stepped off the stage and walked directly to Maria, ignoring the confused investors. He didn't shake her hand. He pulled her into a warm hug. Your son started classes? He whispered. Last week. He loves it. She whispered back, tears in her eyes. Thank you, Mark. He stepped back, keeping a hand on her shoulder, and turned to the crowd. Everyone, this is Maria. When I had lost everything, she was the one who made the call that saved my life. It is only fitting that she is here to help us celebrate our new beginning. She is, after all, the finest caterer in the city. Thank you for watching this incredible story of betrayal and redemption. If you enjoyed it and would love to see more amazing stories just like this one, please let us know by commenting next in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when our next story drops. We'll see you then.